What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3 that just came out. Let's jump right into it. So the episode starts off with a commercial that's kind of similar to a WandaVision commercial. The commercial basically just talks about the blip, and it's almost like a commercial trying to help people out life after the blip, called the GRC. Then we go into one of the few scenes in this episode with John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, where they're kind of infiltrating a base in Germany, where they're trying to find leads to the super soldier's serum. John Walker has kind of a small interaction with this guy, and then he spits in his face. As you can see, John Walker obviously isn't too happy with that, and he asks if he knows who he is, when the guy responds that he does not care and he knows who he is. That obviously pisses off John Walker, almost looking like he's gonna snap right there, but then was able to walk away. Then we cut to Falcon and Winter Soldier, where they're in the prison base that Zemo is in. Bucky tells Sam that it's better that he doesn't go in and Bucky goes in because Sam is an Avenger that Zemo knows of, and Zemo is not too fond of them, as we remember in Civil War. Sam agrees to let Bucky go in by himself and talk to Zemo, and right off the bat, Zemo starts taunting the Winter Soldier, Bucky, saying his code words, and Bucky responds by saying that doesn't work anymore, and Zemo says he knows, but he just wanted to see what would happen. So there's a little bit of dialogue between the two, and then we cut again to Bucky and Sam talking in a garage. Bucky then explains to Sam a hypothetical, but it is actually true and it is happening. It is a prison break scenario that Bucky did with Zemo to break Zemo out. It's kind of a really cool prison break, and I enjoyed it a lot. The next shot, you see Zemo come into the garage that Sam and Bucky are in. Sam's a little pissed off about it and tells him that he's going back to jail, and Bucky has to try to get Sam on his side, asking Sam to help him out and trust him on this. Sam, after a little bit of dialogue, agrees to it, and before we know it, Zemo is all dripped out, and we find out Zemo is actually rich. So they walk over to his private jet, and they get on the jet. Zemo starts talking to them, talking to his pilot, and then he opens up his book that he before said he was reading, and in the book is the list of people that Bucky has that he needs to make amends with. Bucky then gets very angry at him, gets up, starts choking him, and says, if you do it again, I'll kill you. And that kind of sets the tone for where they're at with Zemo. Another interesting thing I saw in the plane that I wanted to point out, they're talking about Wakanda, and Sam tells Bucky how Wakanda obviously wouldn't be happy with Bucky breaking Zemo out of jail, but how the lighting is in the plane. Falcon, it's light, then it goes to Zemo where it's kind of dark, it goes to the Winter Soldier Bucky and it's light, then back to Zemo and it's dark for Zemo, and then Zemo says to Bucky he needs the Winter Soldier to come out one more time, and then it pans back to Bucky and it's dark. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not sure if they actually meant for it to be like that, but I kind of thought it was some type of little foreshadowing, which I thought it was cool. Now we head over to Carly, who's also not really in this episode a ton like she usually is for the past 2 episodes, like John Walker. But as you can see, she is mourning the death as it looks like to be her mother. And after this scene, we kind of see her go off the deep end in a way and start to turn to that evil side that we're going to see later on in the episode. So we get to the destination that Zemo wanted Bucky and Sam to go to. Sam has to take on a new identity, and Bucky has to take on the Winter Soldier mantle one more time and channel that mindset that Zemo tells him he needs to do. So we get into the little club that they're in that really sets the mood of what is going on, and we're about to see some crazy things with Bucky that we haven't even seen since probably Civil War. But before that, we have the iconic scene of Zemo dancing in the club. Honestly, best scene in all of Marvel. There's a little bit of a bar scene now with Falcon, who has to drink some weird concoction of a drink with snake in it. This guy starts to give Zemo a little bit of an issue when Zemo says Winter Soldier attack. We see a Winter Soldier from the movie Captain America Winter Soldier, where he just goes absolutely ballistic, takes out so many different people. One thing that I noticed in this scene was the same music that was played in the Winter Soldier when Bucky was fighting Captain America. It was kind of that screeching music. Zemo stops him and he said, okay, we'll take you to who you have to see. Now there's a little bit of dialogue between them. Zemo offers the Winter Soldier in exchange for information, and then right after, Falcon's phone goes off. She insists that he picks it up. He picks it up to his sister, where his cover is soon blown, and she says, Sam, things start to hit the fan. And and Zemo ends up having to shoot the person they came to see. But in the background, it seems like they have some type of guardian angel, as Zemo calls her, who we later will see who it is. They get out of there, more shit hits the fan, where Zemo almost looks like he runs away to me, but Falcon and Winter Soldier have to kind of get through this. When their backs are against the wall, none other than Sharon Carter is revealed in this episode. We haven't seen her since Civil War, and she's kind of a badass in this episode. Not like what we saw in the Captain America movies, where now she almost is kind of a badass assassin, where she's taken out a ton of different people. There's a little bit of dialogue between all of them. They go back to her place where she seems to be an art thief, and she says to lay low for a few. She'll take them to the right destination. Fast forward, and now we're going into the right destination, which is just a storage container. They go into it, and once they get into the storage container, we find the scientist that was spoken of. The scientist being Dr. Nagel, who goes on to say that he was making the super soldier serum before the blip, and then once the blip happened, he was blipped away and his work was all gone. But when he came back, he started up his project again with the super soldier serum, and then later reveals that Carly contacted him to try and help her mother, which he denies. Zemo is lurking through the background looking for something, finds a gun under the table, walks over to the doctor and shoots him straight in the head after he gives up a little bit of information. He also briefly mentions Isaiah, who we saw in episode 2, where he calls Isaiah a test subject and just talks about his blood very briefly before Zemo shoots him. Right as soon as Zemo shoots him, they have company on the outside and there's a big explosion. The storage container is on fire. Zemo gets out without the Falcon and Winter Soldier. The Falcon and Winter Soldier and Carter soon get out, and then they have to fight. We see, as this is all happening, when they're interrogating him right before the explosion, we see Carter going absolutely crazy on all the different people outside. But then we get this iconic scene of Zemo from the trailer walking with his iconic mask, and Zemo goes absolutely crazy. Zemo jumps off the storage container, comes out, starts popping people, and we see a crazy looking Zemo with his iconic mask, as I said. Then we see Bucky throw a spear at somebody. Zemo then pulls up in a nice ride, tells him to get in. Falcon tells Zemo he's going to jail, and Winter Soldier said no, we need him for a little bit longer. Gets into the car, and then Falcon gets in the back and tells Carter to get in. Carter says no, she's not going to go with them, but she calls back to earlier in the episode where she makes a deal with Falcon that if she helps them out, Falcon will clear her name so she can come back to the United States. Then it's a direct callback from Civil War, only the roles reversed, where in Civil War, it's just a funny scene, but in Civil War, Falcon was in the front seat and Bucky was in the back seat. Bucky told him to move his seat up. He said no. Now the roles are reversed. Bucky won't move his seat up for Sam. I thought that was a pretty cool callback and a funny one. Then we get back to John Walker and Lamar Hoskins, where they're going into the same prison where Zemo was broken out of. John tells Lamar that he thinks Bucky and Sam had something to do with Zemo being broken out of the prison. Lamar kind of calls him crazy for a little bit, and then John Walker tells him that they're as desperate as them for leads, and it makes sense, and they're gonna go after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now we get back onto Zemo's plane, where Sam kind of has to now reflect over all that's just happened, still thinking about the shield, thinking about Isaiah, and then tells Bucky, which is something I was shocked to see, tells Bucky that maybe he should have just destroyed the shield rather than give it up to a museum. Bucky says we need a Captain America, and if it's not going to be you, he'll get it off of John Walker himself and take on the mantle of Captain America, which is really cool to see, and it did happen in the comic books where Bucky did take on the role of Captain America, which makes me wonder if Bucky's a little bit jealous of Falcon for getting the shield, or if it's just that he wants somebody to take that mantle on as Captain America as a symbol of hope. Next scene, we go back to Carly, who, like I said earlier in this breakdown, is kind of channeling her darker side. Looks like they just took what they needed in here and she was going to leave them all tied up, and then gets into the car with her friend, and then all of a sudden a big explosion happens inside where her friend says there's people in there. She says I know, but this is the only way people react. So she blows up a building with a ton of people in it, so she's kind of going off this deep end. Now we go again to the final scene with Bucky, Zemo, and Falcon, where they're about to go into a building when Bucky says to them, I'm going to take a little walk, give me a minute. Then looks and sees these little balls scattered almost in a way where it's a trail for Bucky to find something. Bucky follows the trail. Camera is a really cool thing where it keeps panning. It pans one way, pans back, and then pans again, where is revealed to be somebody from Wakanda, and she says she's after Zemo, which is a direct callback from earlier in the episode when Sam said to Bucky that Wakanda would not be happy with him that he's bringing Zemo out of jail. If I was Wakandian, I would also be very upset with Bucky that he brought out Zemo, and I would probably be after him too. Then the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3 ends. Let me know what you think of this episode and what you're excited to see for the next few episodes. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will see everybody on the next one. Peace.